Well, hello, Threshold Choir friends. Today I am going to step you through a way of creating a recording where one person records all three parts of a song, and you end up with a two-part recording that you can use in Zoom so that your singers who are watching the recording in Zoom can sing along either on the parts that are already there in any given repetition, or they can fill in the third part and feel like they're singing in three-part harmony. All right, that's our goal. And I'm going to use, I use a Mac, so I'm going to show you how to do this with iMovie. But actually, you can do this with pretty much any video editing tool. It's not really all that hard. And making the original recordings just takes a cell phone. So I'll explain a little bit about that as well, and I'll show you what those recordings look like. All right, so we're going to get started. I'm going to start by, oh yeah, by opening up my iMovie, and I'll share that with you as soon as it comes up on the screen here. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to say share screen, and I'm going to pick that one. Yep, that's the one I want to share. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you should be looking at my iMovie screen. And what you'll see is that I've got a bunch of projects that I had already done and some other things, but you'll probably just see, I guess you can see this. You're gonna just probably just see this where it says create new. Can you see that there? I think you probably can. So I'm gonna click on create new, and it's gonna ask me what I want to create. And I'm gonna say, oh, how about just a movie? A movie would be good. Now, I have three movie libraries. Yours will pop up and say movie library, and that's fine. I actually have three. One of them's on a hard drive that's external. That's where I like to keep my stuff, so I'm just going to choose that and say OK. And it'll give it a little whirl there. So now it's opening up that library, and it'll take a minute. Okay, there we go. It's in the photos. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, if it's not already there, you're going to want to click where it says My Movie right here. Right, so this one says My Movie 4. That's actually the name of the project that we're working on right now. And we actually haven't given this project a name yet. We'll give it a name in a little while. I'm just going to make that a little while. Okay, so how do we do this? All right, so you'll see right here in the middle, there's a thing that says Import Media. And I could click on it and go find the files that I want, but I actually already know where they are, and they're kind of already open on my desktop. So let me just pull those up so that you can see them. Here they are. So here they are in my Finder, right? And it's these two right here. I've got a bunch, but these are the two that we're going to use for right now. Okay, so it's On Our Way 4 and On Our Way 3. And I happen to know that On Our Way 4 is the first one that was made. So I'm going to drag that in there first and let you see what it looks like before we do anything with it. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to grab it, and I'm going to pull it right over here and drop it into the import media thing. And oh, look, there's Pat. Okay, and if I just go, if I get this correct, if I click on it and then go back and tell it to go to the start, there we go. All right, so now I can actually play this for you, and I think you'll hear it. So here we go. This is what it sounds like.
We are on our
This is the melody.
way. We are on our way. We are on our
All right, and now she's going to
way.
sing the low part.
On our way. On our way. On our way. On our
And here's the
way.
melody again.
On our way, we are on our way, we are on our way, we are on our way.
All right, so that's how it works. She did that on her cell phone, just, propped it up on a tripod or something and made the recording. Okay, so then what she did was she took that recording, she transferred it over to her computer, You'll have to figure out how to do that for your individual computers. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I trust that you can handle it. And then she watched it and she sang a second time into her phone. So she watched the recording, she listened on, she has little earbuds hidden under her hair, or she will in a minute. So she put her earbuds in, she connected them up to her computer so that she could hear it, but we couldn't hear it on her cell phone. And she sang along to the recording. All right. So here's that second recording. That was this one. So I'm going to pop that in there now. Oops. Sometimes I don't quite catch it. There it is. Okay, so there's file number 2 on our way, and I'll play that one for you, and you'll hear that it sounds almost the same, but not quite.
On our
Here's the melody,
way,
just like the first
we
one.
are on our way. We are on our way. We are on our
And she's going to sing the
way.
melody again. And
On
you remember the
our
first time she sang the
way,
low part.
we are on our way. We are on our way. We are on our way.
And now she's going to sing the high part.
On
And
our
you remember on the
way.
first one, she sang the melody.
On our way. On our way. On our way.
There you go. So there's the lovely Pat singing On Our Way, which I believe is by Lauren Lane Powell. And she made those 2 videos. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to hear the 2 Pats singing together, right? So if this had been 2 different people, and by the way, it could be, you could make the first recording and then send that to a second person who would make a second recording and then put those together. That would work too. And you could actually do this with 3. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we like to do it with 2 so that when we have a finished video, it always has at least one part missing. And that means that the person who's singing to the video hears herself singing the missing part and hears 2 other people singing the other 2 parts. It's really kind of nice. All right, so here's how we make this work. So I'm going to take that first video, this one right here, and I'm going to drag it down to the editing line down here. This is where we do all the work. These up here, this is like all your media, stuff that you're going to use in your final video. And this down here, is the editing line where we're actually going to do stuff to it. And there's lots of stuff you can do. But for right now, we're going to do some pretty simple things. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see a little bit of what's going on there. There you go. Okay, that's good. Now, one of the things I want you to notice, actually, I'm going to make this really big and then scroll back to the beginning so you can see. So there's a moment here where the sound comes in. Whoops, where is it here? Right there. If you look like, oh, hold on a second, I'll highlight this for you so you can see it. So if you look like right here, oops, I didn't do that very well. Right there. Okay, see that? There's like a little white bumpy thing there, right? And I haven't figured out, well, maybe I can, yeah, I can't really do a zoom on it. Maybe you can't. Maybe you could when you're not, maybe not if I'm not annotating, I might be able to zoom it a little better. Let's see. No, I can't. So I can't use the inbuilt zoom function when I'm zooming to you guys, but maybe you can when you're actually editing. But in any case, if you look really close, you'll see that there's just a little bump there. That's where Pat starts singing, and you can actually tell that. Right here's where she takes her breath, so there's no real sound there, and then she starts singing. So that's where it is. Okay, so we know that's where she starts singing, and in fact, we can test that, right? So if I put the cursor there, and then I tell it to play. See? Did you see that? It's actually easier to see if we get it a little bigger there. There we go. Okay. So if I put this here, oh, there we go. It's way back here now. There. Okay. So if I start here, you'll see, boom, right there where that little thing is. See right there? See that? That's where the sound starts. Okay, good. So now we know where we need to line up the other video, right? So I'm going to drag that other video in here. And you'll see how the sound is like, even if I put it straight in. So you'll notice on this one, right, if you look, the sound isn't lined up, right? So I got to figure out how to line it up. So what I do is I get in here and I'm just going to shorten up, because she waited. She had to wait when she was taking the video. She had to wait a bit, until she heard the sound start. And then she started singing. Okay, so what we want is that to line up with this. And the way you do that is you just drag this. Yep, drag, 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 drag. And I'm going to get it as close as I can at this magnification. Let's see how I did. And you can hear whether it's lined up or not. Not quite. Did you hear that? There's just like these little imperfections. Okay, so it's a little bit too late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom it as far in as I possibly can. Get back to the beginning here. Oh, see, now I can actually see that it's not lined up, right? So now I can drag it with much more impunity. There we go. How come it's not dragging? There it is. I didn't have my thumb down hard enough on my pad. There we go. That's looking pretty close, don't you think? Maybe here, maybe there. Let's try there.
On our way, we are on
Listen to the
our
whole thing
way.
here.
We are on our way. We are on our way. On our way. We are on our way. We are on our way.
You can't see the videos in the script. They're just not showing yet, but they will eventually.
On our way, we are on our way. We are on our way. We are on our way.
So that sounds pretty lined up to me. So I'm going to go with that, right? And if you needed to line it up some more, well, you would. You just kind of wiggle it around and you'd get there. So I'm pretty close. I'm already pretty close. And you can hear what happens, right? So the first time through, it's all unison. And then the second time through, you hear two parts. But I really don't want to hear them singing in unison. I just want to see one pat on the screen. Okay. So, and actually right now I am seeing only one pat, but you'll notice it's the second pat. It's the one on top. Watch this. So you'll see it change. Ah, whoop, whoop, whoop. So it went from, as I move that cursor, it goes from pat on the bottom, just waiting to start the first time, to pat on the top, who's starting to sing the second time, and she has a slightly different face. Okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to see both of these at the same time. And here's the magic that's built into iMovie. That's so darn easy, you won't even believe it. Right up here, see this little double square thing? This is the overlay function. Okay, it says video overlay settings. And if you click on that, what it does is it applies to the one on top, and it allows you, right now it's on cutaway, which means that if a new video comes in on that top line, it'll just go there. And you can make it go there in a lot of different ways, but right now it's just going to go there. But what we actually want is we want a split screen. Look, two pats. How cool is that, right? So now you can see that there are two pats, right? And you'll notice, so if I go back down here, all right, here's the one pat, and then as we move the cursor, watch that. Oh, there we go. Now there's two pats, right? So I go from one pat to two pats, and that's because of the video, the split screen, the video overlay, okay? And there are other options there. I mean, you can mess with them if you want, but you have to do your stuff a little differently. So for example, on split screen, I put the top one on the left, but I could also put it on the right. If you prefer, you can do that. It's fine. I tried top and bottom. Meh, not so good. You would have to take the videos a very specific way. Maybe vertical, if you did them vertical or something. I don't know. You'd have to mess with that. But it's not great like that. So I do left. The other thing you can do, and this will become a little useful later, you can do picture in picture, which is kind of cool, right? So you can have, pat number one, and then Pat number 2 over here, she's just fading in. She's dissolving in. I'm going to just swap her in. There we go. Whoops. Yeah, that's good. Huh? How's that working? Yeah, so I'm going to have to make that much smaller in order to make it work. So I can do all sorts of, nifty things with that. And, put her wherever I want her. So dissolve, zoom. Oops, now it's way up here. It has to be bigger. Right, so there are different functions for this. And you just have to figure out what you need and how to use it. For right now, I'm basically just going to go with this as a side-by-side, and you'll see what the possibilities are for picture-in-picture later. That's how you get more than 2 in there. Okay, so here we are. We're all lined up. It's all good. Oh, the other thing is, I don't like the way that it's coming in right now. Notice how it just kind of swaps right in. Boom. Right? I'm not wild about that. So fortunately, we have this little slider here, and I find if you put about 1 second in there, it makes it much smoother because it fades in. Isn't that cool? I love that. Okay, so there we are. We're good. But we're still hearing her sing in unison with her first self. And so what I really want is I'm going to play it until we get to the end of the first one.
We are on our way. We are on our way.
All right, that's going to be right about there, okay? So that's where the second one comes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invisibilize the first one. And I'm going to let Pat number 2 come in when she starts singing the harmony part. So now, we'll hear.
We are on our way.
Check this out.
On our way.
So there she comes in when the harmony part starts. Isn't that cool? I'm telling you, I get really excited about how cool these things are. All right, so that's like the whole deal. I mean, I don't have to show you the rest of it. You'll see. Here's how it ends, right? Now watch the ending. Meh. It's a little weird, right? Okay, so what I do to take care of that, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So what I do to take care of that is I just kind of go right down here, shorten that up a little bit, and I think we probably should make it fade to black. Don't you think? That would be kind of a nice thing to do. I can't see this right here. Let me see if I can move this so you can see. There, that's a little better. Okay, so if you look up here in the bar, you'll see that I have this transitions thing. If I click on that, there's one called Fade to Black. And if I drag it right here, then what'll happen is it'll fade to black. That's pretty good, right? I could have shortened it up a little bit or, done some other stuff to it, but the essence is pretty good, right? Okay, so we're good. Now, at the front end, you kind of want to do a similar sort of thing. So first you need titles, right? Oh yeah, we have those too. iMovie, it's very cool. So let's just take the regular standard titles for now. They're good enough. Okay, and let's see. How about we make this bigger? Make this look about 80. No, bigger. I want it bigger than that. How about 124? There we go. Okay, so this is going to be on. Oops. Typed in the wrong box there. There we go. On our way. I think you can change the fonts on theirs. And then this one, I'm going to make this smaller, right? So this will be maybe 100. Yeah, it's going to have to be a little smaller than that, maybe 80. There we go. Okay, that's good. And then I'll type in by Lauren Powell. I don't remember if I can put another line on there. No, I can't on this one. There's one you can put another line on it, and there is, but we'll put it down here. Okay. Performed by Pat Weiss. There you go. Okay. So that's pretty good. On our way. performed by Pat Weiss. Okay, good. So now, if I start way back at the beginning here, and I play it, I'll see this. Oops. I screwed that up. Okay, now I should be able to do this. Right? Yeah, good. Isn't that nice? But then it just kind of pops Pat in. Okay, that's all good, except I want to transition there too. So I'm going to put a little transition at the beginning. We're going to cross dissolve in, and then we're going to do a little cross blur between the title and Pat, just to give us away. And there's, you can see there's all kinds of crazy transitions you can use, but that's nicer. I think I'm going to make it a little longer. If you double click on the transition itself like that, you can actually make it a little longer. I like 2 seconds. That tends to give it a little more oomph. There we go. Beautiful.
On our way, we are.
All right. So you know what the rest of it looks like. I don't have to tell you. So we're basically done, right? Okay. So now, first thing I do at this point is I will go back to projects and give this thing a name, because when you click on that projects button, that's when it asks you for a name. I think that's kind of a little weird, but that's how it works. So it's On Our Way, and this is my test version. So I'm just going to call it On Our Way Test and say OK. And here we are. Oh, okay, so I already had one called On Our Way Test. Now this is Test 1, all right? So this is the new one. Okay, so it's out there. You won't see the picture yet because it takes a while for it to figure things out. It's not a perfect tool, but, you know, it does the trick. Okay, so here we are. We're back in the tool. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to save this, right? So what I want to do is I want to share it as a movie. It's all saved on my hard drive as an editable movie, but I need to save it as, you know, like a movie you can play in Zoom or something like that, you know, any movie. So I'm going to say File, Share, right here. And I'm going to tell it to just save it to a file. I don't want to email it or anything. I just want to save it to a file. So there it is. On Our Way Test 1. Okay, I'm just going to call it On Our Way Test. That's fine. And I can put a little description in here. Pat sings Lauren's song, however you want to say there, and so on and so forth. And the rest of these defaults are just fine. Say Next. It'll say, where would you like to save it? I'm going to save it in my final video here. Okay, so here we go. All these MP4s. On Our Way Test. Save. Ta-da! I have now done it. Okay, so now let's go back, and I'm going to minimize this so it gets out of our way a little bit here. There we go. All right, so now let's go back to, this is where my original files were stored, right here and here. Okay, in this folder, but if I kind of back up a little bit and I go to the final videos where I stored it, oh, there it is. Look at that. And now, so I can open this up in, I forget, this is QuickTime, I think, is my default, right? And so when I open this in QuickTime, this is what I get.
On our way, we are on our way. We are on our way. We are on our way. On our way. We are on our way. We are on our way. We are on our way. On our way. We are on our way. We are on our way. We are on our way.
Ha! There you go. How cool is that, right? Okay, so so that's kind of how it works. All right. Now, remember I told you that there was a way to get a third voice in there? So for some purposes, you might like to do that. So let me just show you real quick how that would work. I did a little project for Cree last week. That's right here. So let me just kind of pull this up. So you'll see here's Cree all by herself, right? So this is a video that was set up essentially the same way, except that what I did was this first video, you'll notice that as I go through it, instead of just one Cree, at some point, oh, I'm sorry, it's the other one. Uh, as I go through it, you get one, here's one Cree, and now there are two Crees, right? So this video actually was the one that I created just exactly the way that I showed you a minute ago, right? So I had two recordings of Cree, top and bottom, right? And I just kind of, went through and made the whole thing. And I saved it on my hard drive. And then what I did was I had a third recording of Cree, this one, where she recorded the high part, or I think that was the third one. So she recorded the high one separately because she wanted a recording where she sang all three parts, right? Just as a demo more than as a sing-along. So since that's what she wanted, she gave me the third part, right? So that's the third Cree, if you will. And I pulled this first one in right down here. So you'll see that's on the bottom. And at some point, Cree number 2 pops in. There she is, okay? And then I added the third one. So when I added the third one, there it is. I used the picture-in-picture function, right? So that was up here, right? Remember this? Right in here in the overlay settings. Instead of using side by side for this one, I used picture-in-picture and just put it in there as a dissolve, and it kind of moves around. Yeah, I just moved it to where I thought the best place was for it. Blah, blah, blah. There it is, okay? And so if you listen right here,
All pain, fear, and
Cree in three parts
striving.
singing her song, right? So you get the idea. It's just a little more complicated. It took me an extra 15 minutes, I think, to get that third part in once I'd gotten the first two together. All right? So you do the first two just the way that I showed you. Then you save that one on your hard drive, and then you bring it back in again as a resource. So now it's up here, right? I dragged it in from over here. So I just dragged it in. I had a final from that, so I dragged it in here, and then I also dragged in the other file that she sent me. Okay, so here's the first one, and then there was the second one. Okay, so I just dragged both of those files in there, and I treated them exactly as if they had been the first two files. It's just that easy. Okay, so that's just kind of to give you a little insight on what else can be done. So you can definitely get three. My personal feeling, although I haven't quite experimented with this, is that you could actually do this in a lot of iterations and get a bunch of people on the screen. Wouldn't be too hard to do. I can see how it could be done. It would take me a little twiddling around to do it, but I'm pretty sure that I can get pretty much as many as will fit on that screen just by going through this cycle a number of times. There are more expensive and complicated video editing tools that let you do that just kind of in one pass, but hey, like I don't need to spend $1,500 on a video editing tool. I got this with my computer. It's kind of good. So, so that's how it is. So, that's the deal. That's how this is done, and how we go about creating these videos that can be used in Zoom. And if you come into the session on Friday, I think we're going to talk about singing with these, and I think there's some other tools as well. So I'd suggest that you kind of watch this and think about how you might do this with your group or with some members of your group, because not everybody's going to be able to make those recordings, but some will. And if you have at least one person who can do it, like Pat just sent me that after we had talked about it the night that Robin visited our rehearsal. We talked about it afterwards, and I kind of said, "Oh yeah, one person could do this," because we had a two-person recording that Robin had brought to us that was made by two people who were standing side by side. So that's the easy way to do this, obviously. But so we talked about it, and then the next morning, Pat sent me these two videos and said, "Okay, now what?" And so yeah, I figured it out. So now you know the secret too, and hopefully we'll talk about it some more. And if you have any questions, leaders at thresholdchoir.org, I am there. And everybody probably has the same questions you have. So my suggestion would be if you have a question about how this works, ask it on the forum, and that way everybody gets the benefit of the answer. My intention is to spread this around because I think we all need to be able to do this in this kind of weird environment that we find ourselves in. We're not going to be able to rehearse together easily for some period of time, maybe a long time. And if we want to keep up our skills and we want to keep ourselves kind of occupied and enlivened and all the rest of those amazing things that go with singing together, then we need to figure out ways to sing together. So this is just one. I hope you like it. And if you have any questions, drop me a note on the forum. See you soon.